Hey guys, so I know that a lot of you watch because you want to be homesteading, you want to be growing your own food, making your own food, and really improving your self-reliance skills. So right now, while we're working on our tiny house and getting cages and everything set up, we don't have things like pigs and goats and sheep and enormous gardens and things like that. And so I wanted to give you a list of my favorite homesteaders, especially as my small child tries to come out and interrupt me. That's just life as a homeschooler. I wanted to give you a list of the homesteaders that I watch on YouTube or that I watched previously in order to learn how to do what I now know how to do. So top of the list right now, if you want a really pretty homestead that's really put together, and he's been doing it for several years now. We did our first shout out for him, I think it was 2, maybe 3 years ago. This
is Al and Olivia from Lemna Acres.
Hi Julianne. Thanks for having us today on Spotlight Sunday.
Thank you to all Dirtpatcheaven viewers and subscribers.
Having an endless supply of apples. Good morning, Modern Steaders. Do you know what day today is? Today's Friday. Friday means Modern Steader Update. Let's get an update on the Icelandic chicks and see how they're doing. I had to cut a piece of screen and cover them with screen because they kept flying out. What are you doing, Rufus? You got something to say? Well, you want some food. I think you want some food. That's when you know you have a good rooster. But we can feed them to the chickens or the pigs. We have one that's starting to turn orange. Be nice if they all got that way, but if not, we'll pick them. We'll keep an eye on the weather. Let's go check on the outdoor kitchen. So we've gotten it set up in here a little bit. We got our new Camp Chef flat top griddle. Works awesome. Keeping our fingers crossed we'll be able to make some cider this weekend. That's the plan. One more month and we'll be turning them into bacon and ham and pork chops and all that good stuff. The pigs say, you better subscribe. Right, Mrs. Pigs?
And Al is a super nice guy, but the thing I love about his channel is he does everything very pretty. He does it right the first time, and he really has the skills to be able to put things together. He's doing a lot of pigs right now. They just got their summer kitchen put together, and they're processing chickens and pigs. And his chicken coop is gorgeous. His pig run is super nice. It doesn't look muddy and nasty and dingy. So if you want it to look professional, you want to go to Lemna Acres. If you want a really big homestead with rows of produce and free-range pigs and really living off the land with small amounts of money and just large amounts of know-how, go to Deep South Homestead. If you want to live off-grid, then you want to go see Off-Grid with Doug and Stacy. They've been living off-grid for 5 years now. They have a cistern instead of a well. They have some amazing buildings. They just finished their own summer kitchen. And they look a little bit Amish. They're not Amish. The other channel that I really like that doesn't necessarily show as much about how to, but they do kind of show you their journey is, it used to be Fouchomatic, and I don't remember what their new channel is. It's Fouch Family Homestead or something like that. And so those are some really great channels to go check out that have very in-depth detail, and they're very professional. They're well documented what they've done. And I'm also going to put one of my playlists in that shows some of my very best videos of our process when we were really booming with our homestead about 1.5 years, 2 years ago. And again, the reason we're traveling so much is that John had hurt his back, and the winters were too hard for him, so we went on a big road trip with our YouTube channel. We went and saw a lot of tiny houses so that we could really understand what we were getting into if we wanted to live in a tiny house. And we had some really great experiences. We saw some amazing alternative buildings.
Welcome to a simple survival.
Oh my goodness, is that a fig?
Yeah, a fig tree.
Oh my goodness. Okay,
Yeah.
I've got it. I'm just going to stop talking, let you talk. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep talking about how cool it
But
is.
you can talk, you can talk. So this is a room, one of the students was here, but she was a little bit ill, so she's gone now. So I'm sorry if there's a little bit of mess. But just so you can see, so this is basically tires which go up to here, which form a U. And then above this, there's a cement vault, which basically goes up. And then this vault is completely buried, and there's a roof on top, which basically harvests the water, as we said. So the water will go this way, and now behind the house, airships are usually buried at the back. We have the cistern, which is basically which keeps all the water, and we also have these tubes which go under the ground and let cool air in. So right now, if you put your hand, you can actually feel it, and you feel how cool it is. So usually you'd want to, you know, have them at least 1.5 meters kind of underground to reach a kind of certain level where the ground temperature stays the same all year long. And you want them at least 6 meters long. I'm sorry, I don't use imperial.
No, you're good.
Yeah. and
So
you can-
does the earth over the earthship count as that depth? Or do you have to go into the actual...
No, sorry, because the earth over the airship is actually on the roof itself. And then, so this would be all the earth which is, you know, burying the back of the airship.
And this is just out the side of that depth.
This is really like the complete burial of behind the house.
Okay.
This is what this is. And so the water, the cistern also being buried means that as there's no sunlight, you don't necessarily have algae formation. And then also when it's -30 in the winter here, you're sure that your water's not going to freeze. And if it's also very hot, then you know it stays cool. So
That's brilliant.
yeah. And so this is a natural finishing. So right here, the earth that we have here has got clay, not too much. So what we do is we have 1 of clay for 2 of sands, and then we use really like small bits of straw in the mix. But as you can see, like it doesn't even really crack much. It's a really good kind of earth. I mean, the indigenous people here in Taos, in the Pueblo, used, you know, adobes, the earth, ever since. You know, it's been, I think it's more than 1,000 years old now, and the houses are still there. They might need to replaster them, but... So, the water, I'll show you where it comes from. As I said, this is really the most simple, basic version of an airship that you will find. So right here for the drinking water, we have a ceramic filter. So you can take the water, just put it in, and you'll have your filtration, which again you don't need any high-tech kind of equipment to filtrate it. And you have pumps, which are going to take the water, you know, to the top. As I was showing you, these different tanks, which are basically insulated, behind the window, aiming, you know, at the sun, and therefore heat up. And so you have a pump whenever you activate it, which is going to fill them up, and then it'll mix cold water and hot water together, which you can use in the kitchen or also in the shower.
So one question, the decision not to go for composting or some like solids versus liquids with your toilet system, instead to go with a flushable toilet.
That came because at the beginning Michael Reynolds started doing solar dry toilets, which are extremely efficient, but it's just that people did not like looking or having to deal with, you know, their excrements. Basically that's the main reason why Airship went with the water. But then, you know, going with flushing toilets the whole idea was to say, okay, we do not want to be using all this good water on them, and this is why you have, you know, someone using the kitchen. From the kitchen, the water now goes into these different, you know, botanical cells, and then you have a pump which takes this water into the toilet. So it's never water which is pure, it's always reused. But some of the houses here in the community do have composting toilets.
And with just precipitation, do you have a well on site, or is it all from the cistern?
So inside the houses, each individual house is pretty much autonomous water-wise. We're in the desert, so we have very little rainfall, but generally it's enough for all the consumption of the house.
Even with this many people coming through?
Yeah.
But you bathe off-site. You have the hot springs.
No. People take showers. There's a shower here.
Even with the cistern.
Yeah, they take showers within the house. But you know, then there's also so many different ways in which you can make it more efficient. Let's say, so if you did not have the flushing toilet, your water will be able to, you know, be filtered a lot more within here. Imagine, I mean, you feel the humidity. You said like earlier on, your camera had a problem. You could even harvest the humidity within these greenhouses, because first of all you have heat. So if you're able to create a heat exchange and drag this air in there, you would be able to harvest this humidity which has been filtered by the plants and which is now completely pure. So this could be your drinking water or used for something else. So you could take the efficiency to any kind of level you want to.
But I don't smell any mold. A lot of just house plants will get mold in them, but I smell nothing.
Right. The system itself is, so in a lot of permaculture, let's say communities, you do also have water, you know, filtration, different systems. Quite a few actually have the water staying outside, kind of visible. The problem with those systems is it has a lot of smell too. So what we have in these botanical cells is that when the water comes in, a pipe goes at the bottom of it. They're completely sealed, you know, so they don't leak. And the water will go at the bottom, and at the bottom we'll have gravel to help it kind of circulate. And then there's a layer of sand, and then there's a layer of earth. The sand is just to make sure that the earth doesn't go down and therefore stop the flow of the water. So that means that also any smell that the water will have stays, you know, below the earth and does not come out. Now, these plants also, what they have is they have a lot of aeration, because we have this whole kind of air system flowing the whole time. And the lady who's responsible also tries to mix, you know, the right species together. So generally we don't have any problem. You might have some problems if, for example, in summer when it gets very hot, you're not using the aeration system well enough and it gets too much heat, then sometimes parasites come in. But generally, yeah, there's never any problem. The smell that we have now is from the fig tree. That's actually the smell that we have.
Oh, I can't even smell anything. I just smell clean air.
Great.
And so what's down here? This is your cooking area?
Yeah, so this would be the cooking area for these two rooms. So in this one we have these two U's, so one here and one next to it, which create these two rooms. And to have a kind of space where they could, you know, use the kitchen, both of them, this is why we put it here in the middle. But each one of them, as you'll see in the next house, which has only got one of these rooms, it's also within the room itself.
And that's your shower?
That's the shower there.
And so I know as a family, we had talked about doing a solar shower for our RV.
Okay.
But the problem is you're going to scald yourself if it's a hot day. But you guys mix cold water because you know that you're going to have hot water.
Exactly. So we just mix both of them together. So here is our pump, which is basically, it's not automatic. We're in the simple version. You activate yourself. So you can choose whatever you want to fill up in the morning. You just fill up your tanks, which are in the sun. Once they're full, it's basically the water overflows, but it just goes straight, you know, into the plant. So that's all we have, and then you just leave it all day to heat up, you know, with the sun, and then you can use it afterwards, because it's still insulated in any case, so the heat stays for a long time. And the shower itself is very simple. You can see that you've actually got plants. Yeah. It's
oh my
mint.
goodness, you have mint in your shower.
Which I think this is probably an accident. It just, you know, ended up growing by itself.
But no water damage. You've got people showering in here, but I don't see any mold.
No. But again, it's the flow of air, and yeah, you know, there's an exchange also with the other with the greenhouse here, so we've got a flow of air the whole time. And here you can see that you have the hot and cold that you can put together. So this one here is connected to this tank, which is not, you know, behind the window, and then this one is.
So it's cold, so you can mix it.
Yeah, so you can mix it together.
This is so simple and so beautiful. Okay, so. And then we went back to our homestead and we furnished and finished a tiny house there for very little money. With deck paint. It smelled terrible for months. Anytime it warmed up in here, it just smelled horrible and the air was really stagnant. But I'm actually really glad, I'm actually really glad that I put it down, because now that it's off gassed and we don't smell it anymore, it is a lifesaver. You don't get any slivers. So how long do you think it would have taken if we'd used, say, a shovel?
Probably a week and a half.
Easily a
I
week.
think
With the amount of rock that you guys out here,
yeah,
2 weeks.
You saw some dirt though. There's evidence we have some
There's
dirt.
A bit of sand.
It's actually not dirt, it's sand. It's
Right.
actually small rocks. You don't actually have dirt.
Very
it's just,
What do you guys think? I think this feels very homey. Going to be washing your laundry, but we, since let's see, we got our little washer I think 2 months ago. Since we got our little washer that doesn't use very much water, we have been doing our laundry. We lived off grid for 6 months and that was super fun. And during that time, John sold a lot of stuff, things that we hadn't used in a long time. We had a boat that we hadn't used in years. We had some vehicles. Sorry about the truck. Just some big things that we weren't going to be using anymore, and we really wanted him to go to school without being in debt, so he took all that money from selling old toys that we hadn't used in a long time and saved it to go to school, and he left to go to school. It took us 3 months to follow him, but here we are now in this next tiny little house. It's just a tiny bit than our really tiny house back on our old homestead, and we still own the old homestead. We still have renters there, so we haven't sold that. We haven't given up on that. And we can go, when we go back to Idaho, we'll stay in our tiny house there. But here we're trying to show that you can start a homestead or create a significant amount of food on a very tiny plot, and our whole family is living in this tiny house, where before in our last tiny house it was me and the girls for most of the time. But here with John, we're really having to kind of knuckle down and see how much we can do without, and how to have an abundant lifestyle even in a very small space. And once John is finished with school, we will be starting over on a larger homestead than this, and we don't know how big and we don't know where, but we're having fun seeing what it's like to homestead, to live tiny in a much more humid, much warmer area with what most people would consider better soil. So that's kind of where we are now. Go check out those other channels if you're interested in seeing bigger homesteading that's already kind of up and going now. And again, you can look at my playlist that shows what we've already done. So hopefully you will be able to go check them out. Also, and we've had a lot of rain, so that is super exciting.
And it's going to rain the rest of this week.
It is, isn't it?